Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. My guest is a veteran politician, and a lot of social media remarks this evening as to why I'm having this person on. Well, he's got a lot to contribute. He's a person who's pretty experienced in the workings of government and is probably best placed to answer some pressing questions. The principally, of course, is that Sri Lanka is in the throes of one of its worst ever, in fact I would say is in the throes of its worst ever economic crisis. And a lot of people say that this is mismanagement, that it is the aggregate total of mismanagement since I don't know, since independence probably. Let's find out, shall we? He's of course none other than the very vociferous Mr. Vasudeva Nanayakkara. Very good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, sir.
Thank you for coming on Newsline. We appreciate you. Mr. Vasu, I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
It's a bit like this. Imagine a plane, an aircraft, flying peacefully like that. And then all of a sudden it's in a nosedive. It's diving uncontrollably. And guess what? It's a full plane, 300 passengers. And it's going down. And the passengers seem to be very happy because they know that the pilot will be dying first. It's almost like they don't know that they're going to be dying after that. Do you think this is an apt description? Because everybody's saying, Gota, go home, go home. They said, mind to go home, mind to go home. We have a new Prime Minister, he's over a month old. The queues are double, treble. There is no resolution in sight. And in between all of this, I am told through social media chatter that Vasudeva Nanayakkara is trying to form a new party. Can you put me right on all these matters that I've raised?
If you listen to me today in the news, I said very clearly that we need an all-party formation,
right,
in order to govern. Now that the JVP and STB too have agreed to come into all-party arrangement, we should quickly go into it. The only obstacle in this is the present Prime Minister being there. He must move out. And this Gotabaya should agree to. And Gotabaya should appoint a Prime Minister of our choice, our meaning all parties. And then quickly move in order to resolve the gas and oil issue.
Until then, the people do what?
Until then, people must demand through all possible means that Gotabaya must dismiss his Prime Minister and accept a Prime Minister from our all-party arrangement.
Why on earth did President Gotabaya bring a man who's not even been elected by his previous, electorate, and that he's here because of a quirk in our very quaint electoral laws and parliamentary rules?
I believe Gotabaya Rajapaksa thought that at this critical moment, this man with experience might be helpful in order to save the situation.
Experience? Experience in what? Experience in failure. He's led that party for so long. He's a failed leader. He oversaw the greatest possible fraud in this whole country against the public, the bond scam.
That's experience.
Yes, but his experience at getting the trouble coming over his way, camera over here, all right? And the trouble comes here and it goes around him.
Yes,
that's his experience. So is that what the kind of people we want to lead our country?
Not that I or you want to do so. Gotabaya thinks or thought that he would be the best person to manage the situation.
But he's not political. It's up to y'all to have taught him that.
Who?
Y'all, his party. Gotabaya Rajapaksa isn't a
Gotabaya Rajapaksa
He's
is
not a
not
politician.
in my party.
No, I mean this. What I mean is this sort of alliance that you all have.
We
this
are not in that alliance
loose
either.
alliance. You all are supporting.
No, we are not supportive of him either.
Why did you have ministries and all that?
We left.
You left. Now you've left.
No, not now.
Long time ago.
3 months, about 3 months only we
So
were
who would you
minister.
support then?
We support the people of this country.
So would you, if you're unhappy with President Rajapaksa, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, would you then vote
We
in
must
any
ask him to-
impeachment
No, you
against him?
can't do it. I know the impeachment. That's a height of impossibility.
Because it takes too long.
No, not the length of time.
And then?
The very exercise is beyond practical materialization.
Right. So, it is frustrating for the people.
Now what about that pilot and the passengers?
Well, I mean, it's about to crash land. And, there's only a few voices saying, pull up, pull up, pull up, and this pilot is dead beat on putting it there.
Who is the pilot?
I think it's Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Captain Gotabaya.
So Gotabaya Rajapaksa is happily going to land the way he wants.
No, it's going to crash land.
Well,
Boomf, all finished.
Well, he may have his own reasons why there must be a crisis.
Can I ask you this? Let's get a bit serious. Do you know this COVID business? COVID-19, the pandemic. You had it.
Yeah.
I had it too.
Yeah.
Right? We both recovered. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Anyway, look, the whole world, as far as I know, was affected by this pandemic. Right. So Sri Lanka is not alone in this.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in between all this, Sri Lanka had something that most other governments didn't have. They had strong government. 6.9 million people voted for a president. They got a virtual 2/3 majority in parliament. So we had a very strong government. And then look at where we are today. We are bankrupt. No reserves.
The two have no relationship.
What doesn't? Strong government and bankruptcy?
We have a very strong health structure in this country, thanks to which we overcame the pandemic situation.
And reputedly at $75 million more than it ought to have, but carry on. I'm talking about the
price
vaccine.
is not the issue.
Well,
what I mean,
when it lines the pockets of some henchayas, it becomes a problem.
That has been the system that had prevailed.
I'm so glad
throughout the times that we have had governments. But under some governments it was more apparent, under others it was more
And
covert.
how did you feel about it, Mr. Vasu? Did you feel, and when you sit back there, you've even become a public interest litigant, and you've done your bit to save some of this for Sri Lanka. But when you sat there, didn't you sort of think about this and say, my, this corruption is omnipresent. It's with the blues, it's with the greens, and it's everywhere in between.
Correct.
And yet, you, at some points, you have played a role in those governments.
Yeah. It was unavoidable that you have to be in a government when you have been engaged in politics. But it is also inevitable that those governments led by those who led them allowed corruption to prevail.
Right.
Or had to live with corruption.
Yeah.
Because they could not be, they could not lose some of those who are the closest supporters and the strongest, mightiest collaborators.
Yeah.
So therefore, we have it that way. How do we overcome corruption?
How do we
That's a
do
different issue.
Yes.
We must have a very, very clear, separate, what you call a newsline program
Yes.
to discuss that. How do we overcome corruption?
All right, we'll do that. We'll put that on hold.
We'll put it on hold
For the moment. For the moment.
Yes, but corruption has prevailed through and through, not here, everywhere in South Asia or Asia.
Okay, but let's talk only about Sri Lanka. Is it okay? Is it all right?
Yes, why not? Why not?
No, but is it all right to have corruption in Sri Lanka?
No, we are all for.
What's the end game?
No.
To eradicate it?
Why? Now, why do we oppose corruption? We oppose corruption because it is adversely affecting governance.
Yes.
Not because of a moral reason. Moral reason, put it aside. It is more because it is adverse to the well-being of this country.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
And two, there is a moral reason. If somebody helps out the country with a program or a project while at the same time taking bribes.
But Mr. Vasudeva Nanayakkara, tell me this. Here's this man who got 6.9 million votes. He can't even go out. He can't even get into his office. And I dare say, even if he was brave enough to go to a hotel and have a private luncheon or dinner, just him and his wife, what's to say that the waiter won't come and wallop him and start questioning him and say, what are you doing to my country, our country? Like that fellow, the guy in the Navy who decided to have a go at Rajiv Gandhi.
No, the fact is that he is in a state of confinement and isolation on account of the fears that the people are unhappy with him. All that is true, but yet he remains constitutionally the head of the state. So therefore we have to get him to do what we have
It's pathetic.
proposed.
It's pathetic, isn't it, that even a country with a policy of non-alignment and so on, a history of non-aligned policies and all that business, they can't even approach the Arab world to begin to consider giving us a concessionary terms for the supply of oil and to put us out of their misery. The reason is that the Arabs are probably going to turn around and say, what have you done to our people there? Why have you been so treated them so poorly? Isn't that the actual fact?
I don't know. Frankly, I don't know what the fact of the matter is
But
about the Arab question and the Arab oil question. But I know definitely the Russian oil is available, Russian gas is available, but the American pressure or the fear of American unhappiness has prevented Gotabaya or any other person working as a minister under him have refrained, therefore, from going to Russia or to ask Russia to help us out with a credit line of 1 year with gas and oil as much as we need, which is a very small amount considering Russian production.
Do you remember, have you read about what's happening in France now?
Yes.
What do you
Macron.
think? Macron. Do you think he's going away because of his sheer arrogance? He's being accused of that.
Well, his arrogance is more about the right-wing white racism, which I do not mind. You have to be arrogant against white racism.
But here we have somebody who is arrogant, but who appears to have at some point in his career turned a blind eye to extremism.
Well, that's not a question that I will be clear in my mind to answer. I know that he had a soft corner for Kalagoda Atte Nyanasara Himi, and we were not able to arrest him because of Gotabaya and others, not only Gotabaya, at the time when he was at the bottom of what happened in Nalutgama.
On that note, let's go for a quick break. We are in conversation with the ever effervescent Vasudeva Nanayakkara. See you on the other side.
For the compliments.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Cabinet approves 21st Amendment. Gota Gogama protesters arrested. Why was the Finance Secretary late to the IMF meeting? Tensions at fuel queues. Will trains cease operations?
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Mr. Vasudeva Nanayakkara. Now that's interesting what you said about Nyanasara.
Gotabaya and Galagodathe Nyanasara.
Yes.
Not only Gotabaya, there were others who prevented the arrest. When this happened, now it is all this long time since it had happened. The point that I want to make is the fact that he was partisan at that time with the racist forces that attacked the people in Nalutgama. That might be weighing heavily in his mind against making any moves to make contact with the Muslim Arab leaders.
Yeah.
And also there is another matter that he has as a restraint.
Which is?
That is the American companies which are controlling the Arab oil are not happy to give on credit because of the bankruptcy here.
Of course. Would you lend money to somebody who is a known bankrupt?
No. I am telling you why Gotabaya is unable to make contact with the Arab oil dealers.
Oh, so it's not the ill treatment of the Muslims, but the
that might be weighing.
But the cheesing off of the Americans by being aligned with the Chinese.
Not because being aligned with the Chinese, I believe it is because American companies will not lend a credit line when the country is in this bankrupt state.
Right. Now, Mr. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is somebody who has failed on several counts. Some of them he's admitted, others he's not. He's saying it's these errant ministers and whatever. The public are baying for him to leave. Can he not hear the public? Does he not feel for the public? And what is the...
How can I answer this question? It should have been answered by Gotabaya. If I were to comment, Gotabaya should resign after having made the appointments regarding the new Prime Minister and the new cabinet of the all parties that have come together, and then move out so that we can elect a president from the parliament.
What's precluding him, do you think? In your analysis, what is precluding him from doing that?
Well, he is presently carrying on with Ranil Wickremesinghe and hoping that Ranil Wickremesinghe will take him across.
I want to just put you slightly on the other path, the correct path. You know, when you talked about the oil companies, it crossed my mind that I should have said it. Saudi Aramco, ENOC and ADNOC, or the three major oil players in the
All
region.
American.
No, they are owned by those respective governments. Saudi Aramco is listed now, but the majority is owned by the Saudi Arabian government. So is the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, and so is the Emirates. So these are all owned by them. Not they've sort of taken the ownership. They may have been previously owned and controlled by the Americans, but not anymore.
Well, if that be the case,
then we are only left with the Muslim.
Then we are left with the Muslims who are reluctant to lend to a bankrupt state like
and
Sri
who've
Lanka.
treated their
And perhaps because of the incidents pertaining to the Muslim community and whatever that happened against their interest.
And I'm sure that Saudi Arabia hasn't forgotten that a $15 million full grant given for a housing project post the tsunami has never been allocated to victims of tsunami, and instead there was somebody went off to the Supreme Court where the pronouncement was passed there, and since then I don't think there's even a dog or a goat living in there. It's empty. Well, it was for until 2015.
Not allocated to anybody?
No. No.
They're empty.
They were until, I'm talking 6 months before this.
Ah,
but
no.
I don't think, I mean, I welcome the viewers here, especially the ones who are down from the east, and we're talking about the Saudi-funded $15 million then, now worth probably $45 million, the housing project there. If there's people living there, please get in touch with us. Tell us the story is
If
now
people
being
are
put
living
right.
in those apartments, or what are they?
Houses.
Houses.
It's a complete,
Separate houses?
well, side by side houses. There is a community hall there, a school,
What
police
is the
station,
location?
Akaraipat.
Akarepat.
Yeah.
You say nobody is living there. If nobody is living there up to now, it's a criminal charge against the people who are responsible.
There was somebody who petitioned the Supreme Court on the manner in which it was being given, and the judgment was something on the lines that you need to allocate this according to the Land Act. But these houses were already built by them. How can you go and allocate land?
But if Saudi Arabia wanted the tsunami victims,
Absolutely. This
to be
was devoid of religion.
beneficiaries,
the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, their only condition was that these houses should be for victims, the people affected
tsunami.
by the tsunami.
But this has not been carried out, I know that. But I don't know whether nobody is living there now. But what had been intended by the donors was not carried out. That I know because there was resistance by certain sections
Yes,
of
absolutely.
people
Yes.
who belong to the majority community against them being allocated to all the Muslims who are victims of the tsunami tragedy.
Thank you very much for the viewer who's bothered to send us a message, and that is about these the Akaraipat 2 project, a Saudi-funded one. They are yet empty and abandoned, overrun by the jungle. This was discussed last week. There you go. You
It's a crime.
It's an absolute crime.
It's a crime.
Yes.
It's not a matter to be complaining to the Supreme Court as a violation of a fundamental right. It's more a crime. Crime of what you call this is state property. These total destructive misuse of funds and available space.
Now then, whilst this government is surviving through various methods, no one, and I mean no one, is coming forward with a real solution to the US dollar crisis. No printed document. There are plenty of policies driven by ideology and whatever, but
Well,
no concrete proposals.
No, we have a concrete proposal.
Who's we?
We, the 10 parties, which is still to be named as an alliance. We
It's not a
have,
new party, it's an alliance.
no, that will be an alliance of 10 parties. We want all parties to come together to form a government,
Okay.
joint government of all parties.
Yeah.
And this joint government will directly and immediately make contact with the Russian government, and we will have important persons from the ministers sent over to Russia to discuss the matters pertaining to the supply of gas, fertilizer and oil for Sri Lanka on a credit line of 1 year. And we can set off some of the money by the tea that we export to them and by the expenditure.
Permission to speak, sir.
Yes,
Tea. Do you know what's happened to tea?
I know.
Yes.
There's a decline
Because
fertilizer was not available.
Bravo. And
We don't
I
know
wonder why.
Because Gotabaya thought it that way.
I love this lesson because it's beautiful.
But the important thing is that we can come to an understanding for a credit line of 1 year or even more and set off some of the dues with the money of our exports on tea and with the tourist from Russia who comes here and his expenditure money. These together can set off some of the dues that we will owe them on oil. But whatever balance can be rolled over. These arrangements can be done. Russia has been very, very close to us. They have always voted with us in international fora, wherever our issues came up. And Russia has been a friend for a long, long time. They have given us, when they were the Soviet Union, many, many projects which still run in this country for the benefit of the people. Therefore, I believe we can have immediate arrangement with Russia. We, in fact, the 10 parties, we have asked for a meeting with the Russian ambassador, and tomorrow at 3 p.m. we are going to be his guests.
Are you more comfortable dealing with the Russians because of your political ideology?
Not political, because Russia has been a traditional friend and a very warm friend who have unconditionally stood by us. Therefore, I think we can work out with Russia what we may not work out with anybody.
Right. Well, we've got just over a minute here, so let's finish this, Mr. Vasudeva Nanayakkara. I am saying to you, and I'm saying this on behalf of the people who are suffering. They are in endless queues. The gas queue, the petrol queue, the kerosene
Aren't
queue,
you
the
one?
diesel queue. I am also one. My car
I am
twice
one.
now. 23 hours.
Of course, my driver
For heavens-
goes
Well,
to the
yes,
queue.
so did I, but my driver had to be paid overtime for 15 hours because he only works 8 hours or 9. You know, the rest is overtime.
Yes, I know.
But
it's
it's not. It is tragic for that these people have to spend their nights. People have turned sitting in the car as another excuse to get out of the house away from the wives, and they're sitting there and breaking a bottle.
And also some are engaged in gambling too.
Yes, yes. They don't need the
And
casinos.
one person had lost all the money he had brought to put petrol. And another person had said, I have won 9,000 rupees. Heard by a person who was physically present.
Vasudeva Nanayakkara, it's been wonderful talking to you. But let's have that longer conversation about all those other
Corruption.
matters. Corruption. And on that note, it's now time for the news from that other effervescent team News First Primetime News with Azra Hassan and her team. Take care and God bless you all.